Got a chance to see Longlegs with Nicolas Cage and Alicia Witt? Let's talk about it right now. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thank you so much for spending time with me as we rant about movies, comic books, and television shows, as well as an occasional board game. I am Frank Zenka. I am an award-winning screenwriter, novelist, and comic book writer, as well as a filmmaker. I do have a meeting tomorrow with a production company that also does classes. So if you are interested in any kind of a class about writing, producing, line producing, budgeting, scheduling, that's pretty much what I do. How to write to a certain budget, make sure that your script is not a reading script, it's a shooting script, and I obviously go through the difference, etc. So I will be doing one next week through Zoom. I'm going to be creating an Eventbrite. I'll throw the Eventbrite link in here because I'm going to work on that tonight. Also, if you haven't read anything that I've written, then check out the link below too. My Amazon page will be in there. I wrote a series called Destiny Aurora, and the interesting part is that the beginning is about a Secret Service agent who fumbles an assassination attempt, and literally his wife is killed, and because she's a senator. So it was very interesting hearing everything that was happened with Trump yesterday and then falling into today because there was a lot of similarities. Ouch. So my prayers are, of course, with him and his family and everybody, the other wounded people, and the one, I think was a firefighter that was shielding his daughter and did get hit. So my prayers are with everyone that happened to. I can't even imagine. All right, so let's, on that note, let's jump into Longlegs. So I was able to see that. I was excited to see it because I, of course, being a low-budget filmmaker myself, independent from networks studios, I'm interested to see, what he was able to do. I've heard everything, budget-wise, from, $3 million to close to $10 million. I can tell you from talking to people that have worked with Nick Cage before that he ain't cheap. And normally he would only play the lead role. So for him not to play the lead role on this one and to get fully ensconced in makeup, because he has prosthetics on for every scene that he has. He's pretty much playing a totally different character. I would say this is more around the $8 million mark if I was going to guess. If I was going to guess too, I was going to say that he probably only worked 2 or 3 days. So even if he took a discount at like $600,000-700,000 a day times 3 days, it was still $2 to $2.5 million purely for him. Alicia Witt, she's very nice. I've met her a couple of times. She does singing engagements in little teeny bars. So I've gone to several of hers. I own her album on CD and all that stuff because she was selling them there at the bar. But so I've met her a couple of times. Also, my friend was dating her for a little bit. But anyway, yeah. So it was good to see her get a role like this, a very meaty role. Even though it was a smaller role, we don't actually get to see her character until way later in the film. And it was good to see her. She plays an older version and a younger version of herself. So the hair and makeup team did a really good job. I think able to differentiate them very easily I think they did a really good job. So anyway, I don't think she's very expensive. And then Micah Monroe, who plays the lead in here, she did an excellent job. I have seen other things that she's in, but she hasn't been memorable in anything that I've seen before. I did not see It Follows. Somebody said that was probably one of the best things that she'd done. I saw more stuff where she was playing supporting roles. But anyway, she does a really good job. She was able to embody a character that was socially awkward, and she did a good job of doing that. I think that all of her choices that she made in her eye line and how she really didn't look anybody really in the eye for the most part, even when she was doing the interrogation. She was probably trying to be strong, but still came off kind of timid. I thought all of that was really really good. I Karen Shipka was in this, and I didn't even realize it. She plays. They cut all her hair off, and she played this very awkward. She was psychologically, a mess. So, and she was able to pull that. I didn't even recognize her with the very very short hair, and however they made her face look. It just didn't look like her at all. But amazing. She did an amazing job now that I realize it was her. And then Blair Underwood, always a good actor. Always a good actor. This was like the perfect role of his FBI agent for him because he's a guy that commands respect when he walks into a room. That's the first thing I think of when I see him on screen is that guy demands respect when he walks in a room. So for him to be like a lead in an FBI type of thing, I think that's a really good role for him. Nothing that he really hasn't played before, but yeah, he did a good job. So now that all the cast is out of the way, because all the cast did, again, a great job, let's talk about Oz Perkins. So Oz Perkins is mostly an actor. He's done some writing, and the reason he's really getting or really got the boost is that he's Anthony Perkins' son. So he is royalty. He is Hollywood royalty. So the fact that he hasn't really taken off except for small roles is kind of actually surprising considering who his father is. So, but, he has a certain look and feel like he did Gretel and Hansel, which I really couldn't even get through. But, in fact, this film is extremely slow. I mean, this is a total slow burn. It is a supernatural, I wouldn't even call it a horror, it's a thriller. Most of the deaths you see are in the past tense. They've already happened. So there's really no horror involved. The only deaths you see at the very end that happen, real time. So, there's nothing, we know that these things already happened. There is nothing really we can do, to say, oh, get out of there. We already know that they happened. So she is an FBI agent who's more of an analyst, who also is half psychic, as we learn in the very first scene. But we don't ever see that psychic thing again. I have a lot of problems with this script, actually. I thought the movie is getting a lot of accolades because Nick Cage did, he took that character and he ran with it. If you didn't know it was Nick Cage, you wouldn't realize it watching it. Just like I didn't realize that was Karen Shipka. But I think the script is okay. It leans heavily, and so the beginning portion of it is real life detective work with, almost like a Zodiac killer type of thing. But he threw this, psychic thing in the beginning, never touches on it again, ever. And I think that was a mistake. I was really like, okay, yeah, we're going to do some medium stuff here. We didn't. Then we get this whole thing, with the whole first probably 2/3 of this Zodiac killer type of thing. And then the last third turns into supernatural. So it's like all over the place. It really doesn't know what it is. And some people may like that, but I was turned off by it. I actually fell asleep several times because in the second act you think it would kind of pick up, and it doesn't. So you're into the first act, you're intrigued by all these characters. The second act really doesn't pay off. And then the third act picks up again. So his problem was in the second act. And if you see it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So because it derails by the end with this whole supernatural thing, and the killer that they're after, they ends up being something else completely. It's like a red herring kind of situation. So I'm not going to really go into spoilers, but I'm just letting you know that it does kind of go kind of all over the place. So I thought I'm not as enthralled as everyone else was by it. Of course, I ended up sitting, when I first bought my ticket, There was nobody in the theater. I was like the first person to buy, and it was yesterday, last night, at like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, oh, great. But by today, the theater was half full. And the people next to me, it was 3 women. They were all on their cell phone. So I didn't feel like dealing with, especially 3 of them, 3 against 1, 3 women. No way I was getting involved in that. So I just picked up my shit and went to the row below where I couldn't see them, and there was nobody in that row. So I was happy. I was leaning up a little bit, but either dealing with 3 cell phones or being in a row by myself, it was an easy choice. But anyway, yeah, I really wish that everybody just didn't have ADD with their cell phones. It's just crazy. It's like an addiction. They cannot put their cell phones away. I don't understand it. It's crazy that it wasn't even a 2-hour movie. It was an hour and a half, and they still couldn't do it. But anyway, I'll always support independent film. And if you go see this movie to support independent film, that's great. Do I really think you need to see this in the theater? Is there something here like Monsters or whatever else where you have to see this in the theater? Not really. So I don't think it's really an event movie, even with it being a small, like Maxine, which had probably a smaller budget than this. I would see that in the theater because it was more of an event movie, where I don't think this was. He has a very particular type of directing where he likes this, like the whole beginning portion of it is in a aspect ratio of an old television. So, because it takes place in the 70s. So I don't really know I think it's Oregon. I couldn't really tell. I think it's Oregon. And I couldn't really pinpoint a date because he mentioned 71, he mentioned 73, he mentioned 74. So I can't tell. And then she's older, so if it took place in 71, then wouldn't it be the 80s? So I was very confused by what time period this took place in. I couldn't tell. So I really wish that there was some kind of an overlay superimposition that showed us the dates, so I could tell where we're supposed to be. It looked like the 70s, and I got to hand it to the production department because they did a good job of bringing in the cars, bringing in the chairs, bringing in all, like the mother's house was just filled with shit. So she was like a pack rat, and I can tell you that when we did I Love That For You with Molly Shannon, she was a pack rat. And the amount of production design that had to go into that and all the stuff they had to bring into that house was crazy. Crazy. Anyway, that's it for me. So on a scale from 1 to 10, for me, this was a completely average film. Completely average. So just make it a 5. Will I see it again? Probably not. There's nothing here that would bring me back to see this again. But again, support independent films. So even though and a lot of people, like when I put my initial out of the theater review up, a lot of people love this thing. So I know I may be in the minority here, where people are really liking this, and that's great. If you love this movie, that's great. Just like I loved Fly Me to the Moon, and I'm watching everybody else's review, and everybody else thought it was like middle of the road. So it's like a swap for me. Everybody's loving this, probably because it's more arty. I don't know. I don't understand what people really like about this, but the fact that they are, and it's independent, just helps me because naturally, when I do my independent films, I would love for people to support me as well. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you do want to join me for my class, please let me know. You can just email me at evzanka@destinyhorizons.com, or I'll put the link to Eventbrite in the description below. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Remember to give me that like, give me that thumbs up. If you can subscribe, please do. I am trying to grow the channel out. And also check out some of my other videos as well. And you guys have a great week.